And today I have a very special guest with me. It is my nephew, Troy Thompson, and he is here with me today to talk about some of the things that are going on with the George Floyd protesting, as well as the racial inequality that is so profound here in our country. Troy, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Just got my day started, and I'm happy to be on with you. How about yourself?
Yeah, me too. Thank you. I'm good. I'm so glad you're here with me today because I definitely wanted to get your perspective and just let you let you speak.
Indeed.
So, where
Thank
would
you.
you like to start? I know this is a heavy, heavy, heavy issue.
It
So,
is, and first I'd like to say that we could sit here for 20 hours and barely scratch the surface on this entire subject. So I'm sure we won't get all the way through it within an hour, but
hmm
that's what I like to say. You can't fix hundreds of years of a problem with a 5 minute solution, or in this case, a 1 hour solution. So, I just like to say that,
exactly.
everybody wants to just use just a broad stroke or like a one slice fix all kind of approach. And that's really not it. There's so much to deal with. There's so many things that are wrong. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing, as Malcolm X once said, the chickens coming home to roost. It was very
Yeah.
controversial when he said that, but it was a lot of facts to it. And people are treated, on both sides. Whether no matter your color, Americans we're a under a classist type of oppression. So it just so happens that a great deal of those poor people are black. Now, obviously, the numbers are that there's more poor whites than blacks, but that's not what I'm hitting on here. So people have been oppressed for so long, and for instance, like the subject of healthcare.
hmm
If you're rich, you have healthcare, so you're not worried about healthcare. If you're poor, you either have mediocre health care or none at all. So you have
Right.
acute care at the emergency room, and that's about as far as it goes, And some countries don't have that, so they tell us that we should be happy that we even have that. But a lot of the problems that we have in America are um, are problems of class and and class discrimination, and it's a fight over resources, which goes back to the beginning of time. That people, when people feel that they're not getting what they deserve, you could take just a watering hole, for instance. If somebody gets blocked from that watering hole to get fresh, clean water, they might sneak around for a while and try to get some water out, and they might pray about it. They might write a song about how thirsty they are, but eventually they're going to knock the person over the head that's stopping them from getting the water. So what I'm saying is, right now, a lot of looting, rioting, in very small towns, even in Illinois, around, because I'm just south of Chicago here. What I'm
hmm
saying is that a lot of the people that are looting and rioting aren't doing it in the name um, of Ahmaud Arbery or the brother George Floyd who was murdered. They're
hmm
doing it because it is an opportunity, and they are just pissed off. And they're like, okay, if somebody else is doing it, I'm going to go get it too. So
hmm
there's a lot of disorganization. The people aren't organized. Definitely not organized. They're being reactionary, and that can be a huge problem. But the underlying anger is justified. You know that
Absolutely.
the way you feel is justified. So a quick story. When I was a kid, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting down at the table with my family, and we were eating chicken with mashed potatoes and peas. And I'm sitting at the table, and all the food got served. I looked over at my brother's plate, who was 4 years older than me. Maybe he was 9 and I was 5 or something like that. And I noticed that he had more peas than me. So I said, "Why does he have more peas than me?" And then my father, very calmly, as I remember it, said, "If you want, when you finish those, and you can have some more." I couldn't do it. I just started bawling, crying, because I just didn't. I couldn't stand to see him have more peas than me. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of the thing in America, that people are angry because other people have more peas than them, and
Hmm. And they feel like they're working just as hard to get those peas.
they're working just as hard, yes, to get those peas. Thank you. And it's like they tell you, work hard, keep your head down, save some money, and eventually you'll be rich. That's just it's like the biggest lie there is. Even if you
Yeah.
saved, if you're making 30,000 a year, even if you saved a half of your income, that's only 15 grand a year. In 10 years, you're still not rich. You got 150 grand, which is great. I'd be very impressed if somebody did that. But typically, you're spending more than 100% of your income just on getting by, and even if
Hmm.
that's 50,000 or 75,000, whatever your combined household income might be, the average person is spending more than what their total income is. So you're supplementing with credit and borrowing money or
Hmm.
government subsidies and things like that. So yeah,
Right. Well, many of us don't even own what we have.
right,
It's all
absolutely,
borrowed on credit.
yeah, most definitely.
Hey, can you tip your camera down just a little bit
Yeah, sure. Hold on.
so I can see you? There you go.
Uh, Hold on. Is that
All right.
better?
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like, where do we even start? I mean, it feels like there's just so many layers to it, and it feels so frustrating to try and figure out, how it can be rectified because, it's 400 years of this been going on,
Right.
and
Yes.
the only way we're going to make changes is to start small because you can't just, I mean, you could completely dismantle the entire Constitution and start all over, but the chances of that happening, of an entire new revolution happening, is probably not going to happen. So, where can people start small? Like, what are the top three things that we can do to start to elicit change?
Well, I believe that the first thing to do is to really do some self evaluation.
Hmm.
I think that's very important. Self evaluation, then doing research, and then taking action.
Hmm.
So you self evaluate. Obviously, that's a pretty common term. Just to see where you're at. If you read the autobiography of Malcolm X and you find everything that he's saying a little bit crazy, then you probably haven't arrived yet, and you really
Hmm.
need to make some paradigm shifts. For
Hmm.
instance, like let's see, Malcolm X says. Here's a quote from Malcolm X: "If you stick a knife 9 inches into my back, and pull it out 3 inches. That is not progress. Even if you pull it out all the way, that is not progress. Progress is healing the wound, and America hasn't even begun to pull out the knife. So,
Mm.
you know, everybody wants to make him out to be a bad guy, and he's violent and all of these things, but everything he said, he probably has some things that make people clutch at their pearls or whatever. But even those more brutal things that he said are valid.
Hmm.
And even when he was speaking about violence and things like that, they were valid. At what point? At what point are you supposed to hit back? If
Right.
if somebody says, you send your kid to school and you say, don't be fighting now. If somebody hits you, tell the teacher. Okay, I've told the teacher 100 times this kid keeps hitting me. At what point am I supposed to punch him in the mouth? At some point,
Exactly.
probably not the first time, probably not the second time, but the fifth time, the 10th time, you keep telling the teacher,
Hmm.
and nobody, you might have to take action into your own hands. So
Right.
with that said, I suggest also once you self-evaluate, and there's definitely a lot of other things you can do to do that. If you can't understand their anger, people's anger that are rioting, and actually, looking at people going in stores and stealing stuff and looting, that might make people disgusted. Like, why are they? Not that it might. It definitely does. Makes a lot of people disgusted, and myself included. Okay, but I understand. I give them a pass. I give them a pass with their behavior because I understand it. Okay, it's not what it really is. It's putting a gun to the head of capitalism. It's saying,
Hmm.
look, you don't. If you don't give us what we want, and now, like I said earlier, a lot of those people aren't organized or aren't even doing it in the name of justice. They're just out there stealing stuff. But the overall action that's being taken is putting a gun to the head of capitalism, and it's saying, if you don't budge, if you don't make some changes, if you don't give us what we want, what we need, if you don't treat us like human beings, we're going to pull the trigger. And this is just a threat. And the police have really no. I've for the first time in my life seen police utterly powerless. I mean, I've seen riots before, but this one is just so far stretched across the nation, and
Hmm.
to see the police utterly powerless because the numbers don't add up. There's 370 million approximately people in America. There's what 3 million cops or something like that. I'm not sure. I didn't look that number up, but it's definitely, you can't.
Yeah, it's definitely not balanced.
Definitely not that much. Not even close. Is maybe yeah, maybe 1 to 100 people, one cop to 100
Hmm.
people or something like that. So they're powerless. And when we're in a state of unrest, there's really nothing that local law enforcement can do about it. And even so, even the military. There's 2 million people and 3 million in the military. I'm not sure. I looked it up a few weeks ago, but definitely not 370 million. So they would have to take some really violent acts towards the people, and that would just make things worse. But okay,
Hmm.
so self-evaluate. Be able to put your feet in their shoes. Even those people who are mindlessly looting, even those people who are you look at and you say, "Oh my God, why is he doing that? This is not help." Being able to even say, "I get why you're mad. Yeah, your actions might not be the best, but I get why you're mad." If you can do
Yep.
that, now you started. You started.
Hmm.
You're in a good
Yeah.
place. You've had a good start. So self evaluation, and then doing research. We all think we know everything, uh,
Mhm.
myself included. Right? We all think we know everything, especially smart people. And I'm not going to butcher this quote, but I believe it was Neil deGrasse Tyson said, "The hardest thing about the hardest thing about it's really hard. What do you say? It's really hard to when you know enough about a subject to think you're right, but not
Mhm.
enough about the subject to know you're wrong." So a lot of times we think we're right, and we know so much that there's no way to say, "Oh, wait a minute." Whether it's physics like Neil deGrasse Tyson or it's a subject like race and the history of race, because we all know so much about it, but we've never really done the research. So I'd say
Mhm.
watch different podcasts. Like for instance, my sister has a podcast. She could be a bit hard to digest sometimes, especially for people who aren't black, white people in particular. It can be a
Mhm.
little bit hard to digest sometimes, but her she's her stuff. China Fox. She's
Mhm.
part of an organization.
Yeah.
She's one of the founders of the OAC. It's called the Omni African Collective. Also, there's a guy
And
who.
I'll post links to all of this that we talk about in the show notes, so you don't have to be perfect in remembering them.
Okay, and another guy. There's quite a few that are really not coming to my mind right now. Uh,
Yeah, you had
but
mentioned earlier Diallo Kenyatta.
yeah, Diallo Kenyatta. He's a very bright dude. He's very well learned, and he's got some really good stuff online. Um, so doing the research, reading the books, read the
Mhm.
autobiography of Malcolm X, read read some Bobby E. Wright. He's a black psychologist who was very prominent in the late '60s and '70s. And one of the things that he taught, if I'm not mistaken, he introduced the idea of menticide, which is the destruction of a people's mind. And that's what black people are victims of menticide, to the point where we've forgotten our culture. We're completely reprogrammed, and we're wondering why we're eating all the wrong foods. We're practicing things that have nothing to do with our culture, and we're like,
Yeah.
man, why are we crazy? Well, first of all, we are. We're messed up. Somebody might be listening to that. Well, how could he say that? Well, we are. I've lived around black people all my life. We are messed up. We have issues. You know, and some of us are over sexualized, over hyper aggressive. You know, there's a lot of things going on, right? And I could get into it. I don't have any notes in front of me though. But once you educate yourself, you do some research on black scholars and the history of racism in America, the history of racism across the world, in every single country. Once you do that type of research, once you self-evaluate, then you have to constantly self-evaluate. Then you do the research. Then you take some action. Okay, the least you can do is post your opinions on social media. Talk to friends in person. You can also vote, especially in your local elections. I think most, if not
That's the
all,
biggest thing.
yes, I think all presidential elections are rigged. I'm not saying don't vote for president,
Right.
but I think just like when Bush got elected the first time, it was rigged. Just like when Obama got elected, it was rigged. Just like when Trump got elected, it was rigged. That's just the last three, right? So I just think local politics are a lot more important. So you want
Hmm.
to affect change, you get those racists out of office. The people that are making. I saw this clip, and I wish I had to look this up. There was a guy, a black man, who had no priors, no prior arrest, no prior conviction, no criminal history is what the word I was looking for. He got caught with a certain amount of drugs, and then there was a white dude got caught with a similar amount of drugs, same classification, same crime. They went into the same court the same day, several hours apart. One guy got 12 years. One guy got a year probation. You know, and I'm
And that's
thinking,
all across the board in every
yes,
single crime.
right. So I couldn't really look into it. I guess I could have. All that type of stuff is public record. But what they said was that the black kid had a public defender. The white kid had a private lawyer, a big shot,
Hmm.
high powered lawyer. And that's the difference. Money.
Hmm.
Can you afford a lawyer? Oh no. Well, you get a worse sentence then. Bam, gavel, 12 years. Like, whoa,
Hmm.
whoa, man, what's going on here? And we know it's about that. So take action. If you see stuff like that going on in your city, you know, speak out about it. That judge shouldn't be sitting there anymore. He- you know,
And
um,
oftentimes it's not the the position of the judge who lays down the sentence. It's actually the DA that actually makes
right,
the,
right.
the plea deal and things
Yes,
like
yes,
that. And
certainly,
you know,
certainly.
even if they both had a public defender, from the
Right,
state,
yeah,
chances are that the white person would have gotten away with less. I mean,
right,
it's all across the board, and that
yes.
happens. It's not always the fact that he had a better attorney. It's
Wow, yeah,
the color of his
definitely.
skin.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And that's sad. That's
Hmm.
really sad. That's really sad. But that's what we're dealing with. That's the kind of beast we're up against here, man. And yeah, but just take action, in your community. Um, Also, I recently kind of had a paradigm shift about certain things. Like it really used to bother me, and it kind of still does, when I see a black kid with their pants hanging off their butt, right?
Hmm.
But what I started doing, and I need to do it more consistently, was carrying a few belts in the car. If you offer one of those kids a belt, they're gonna put it on. They're not gonna be offended. A lot of them are walking around holding their pants up because they don't have a damn belt. So I've given out dozens of belts, literally. I should have given out hundreds, because just because they don't have the proper fitting clothes. Now, mind you, some of them are like that style. They got it just hanging
Hmm.
just perfect. But anyway, like we look at the way people look, and we judge them based on that, not just their skin color, their style of clothing, the way they wear their clothing, the things that they do. But I had a boss when I was working at the this library in the south suburbs out here in Chicago, and she told me to consider the source. Okay, when you look at somebody, when somebody's acting a certain way, you have to consider the source. Why are they acting that way? I had a guy come in and he was really irate and he was really angry and he was being bossy, and I was like, just give me one moment. Let me go get my supervisor. She came out. And she talked to him. After she finished talking him down, she told me, "Hey, his wife just died. He's really going through something, you know." And black people are going through PTSD. You know, we're in a
Hmm.
state of constant. One of the things is we're in a state of uh, um, a constant state of panic. What's the word I'm looking for? Like
Trauma.
yes, yes, trauma, and we have a scarcity mindset. So it's
Hmm.
like, and where's my next meal coming from? Not even so
Hmm.
literally, because the food stamp program
But
here in America,
literally, yes, literally.
but literally, right? So you know, it's like, and then we see people with so much. Like, you can drive 10 minutes from where I'm at, and you're in a rich neighborhood.
Hmm.
Drive back, it's you're in the slums, 10 minutes away. You know, and then that's not to knock anybody who's worked really hard to get where they are, and who's climbed the ladder of capitalism and done everything right and gotten their education, because it's like they say, if you perform well in capitalism, you deserve to get rewarded. But I always say food is free. Everything that God wanted us to have already exists here on this earth. So anything else is just a social construct,
Hmm.
or social mores, man. And it's like, you beat down on somebody for not having money, fiat currency, and if you're and I have a college education. I I have tons of experience, ex-military. There's been times in my life when I've been looked at as a a as not worthy, and looked at as somebody who was a vagrant or a miscreant. And I'm looking at it like, whoa, just because I don't have nice clothes on, I'm worthless, huh? So that goes across the board. You see somebody who hasn't shaved, or maybe they smell bad, and you're like, oh, you're a horrible person. I work with the organization that goes out, and we feed the homeless. We offer them clothes. We have a nurse on. We I drive a bus. And we have a nurse on the bus. We have counselors on the bus, and we try to help people. And some of the people that I work with aren't the nicest to our clients, and that's the hardest part of my job, is to see them talk to those people not so nice. So we're out there every single day, and what I'm trying to show them through my action and the way I personally interact with those people is that just because you're in a bad situation doesn't mean you're a bad person. And I grew up in a house. My parents, and I think you know something about this kind of life. My parents were both addicted to drugs,
Hmm.
so I learned firsthand that just because you're doing drugs, just because you're strung out, doesn't mean you're a bad person. My
Hmm.
parents were loving. They were everything, and they eventually got off of the stuff. But I learned from watching my mom and my dad do drugs, and then teach me math and feed me and teach me how to fix computers and sing to me. So I made that connection without even realizing it, that just because you're in a bad position, just because you're at the bottom, doesn't mean you're not trying, right? So I guess I'm trying to tie that into the taking action part, and self evaluating also, is that just because you see these people out there rioting and looting doesn't mean they're bad people. Um,
Right.
it's a
Look that
it's
up.
it's a bit of opportunism. Um, it's a bit of anger, a lot of anger.
Hmm.
but they're not bad people. You know, you probably got preachers and everything out there stealing bottles of Hennessy.
Exactly. And I mean, we tried, you tried the peaceful
Right,
route.
right, right,
And everybody, bashed Colin
I am,
Kaepernick for,
I
right,
have tons of
that. And he
experience,
wasn't being
ex-military.
right.
patriotic. And,
There's been times in my life when
I think
I've been looked
we
at
are spoon
as
fed our history in
a
school,
a
and we take
as
that as
not
gospel.
worthy
Right.
And we
and
don't
looked
Yes.
at
realize that,
as
you know, you can't
somebody who was a vagrant
you
or a
can't study the
miscreant.
entire history
And I'm
in
looking
a
at it like,
small school
whoa,
year,
just because
first of
I don't
all. So
have
Right.
yes, it has to
nice
Definitely.
be
clothes
condensed.
on,
And second of all,
I'm worthless,
it's
huh?
whitewashed.
Yes.
The
So
Yes.
Bible's
I.
whitewashed.
Yeah.
that goes
School
across
is
the
Definitely.
board. You see
whitewashed.
somebody
Definitely.
It's
who hasn't
all
shaved,
in the
or maybe
favor
they
of
smell bad, and you're like,
certain
oh, you're a
people,
horrible person.
and
I work with
it's just
the
so frustrating. So we have to do a lot of research. We
organization that
can't take
goes
what
out
we
and
learned in
we
school
feed the
and just
homeless.
run with it.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. I
We
know it all.
we
I
offer them
got it. All
clothes.
right.
We have a nurse on.
I
Right.
got it.
Yeah, I
It's a
passed the
travel
test. I'm
bus.
good. I got an A in
We
that
have a
class.
Right.
nurse on the
Yes. I
bus.
know
We
all
have
about American
counselors on the
history.
bus, and we try to
Right.
help people.
Exactly.
But some of the people that
Yeah.
I work
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
aren't the
I learned
nicest
about Martin Luther King.
to
I know
our
everything
clients,
about black people.
and
You know,
that's the hardest part of my
Exactly.
it
job
was
Right.
Dr.
is to
King and it
see
was
And the
Malcolm
them
thing
X.
is,
That's it.
talk to those people not so nice. So
and
we're
the
out
thing
there
is,
every single
I have
day,
two
and
teenagers,
what I'm
and
trying to
helping them do their
show
homework
them
in
through my
school.
action and
There's
the
so
way
much
I
spent
personally
on
interact
like
with
the
those people
Revolutionary War
is
and
that just because you're
the
in a
Civil
bad
War, but not
situation
even the
doesn't mean you're a bad person.
underlying things of the Civil War. It's like,
And
oh,
I
the
grew
Civil
up in a
War, yeah, we
house.
freed the slaves, we're good,
My
That's
parents,
it.
we
and I
won.
think
Boom.
you know something about this,
Yeah.
That's
Kimberly.
it. But
My
there's so
parents were
little
both
spent
addicted
on
to drugs.
how the slaves even got here.
So I learned
I mean,
firsthand
the miniseries
that
Roots
just
is what,
because you're
8
doing
hours long,
drugs,
10 hours long.
just
Right.
because you're strung out,
Right.
doesn't mean
Watch
you're a
that.
bad person.
Watch that. And that's it.
My parents
Oh
were
my
loving
Watch
goodness.
that.
over
Man,
everything, and they eventually got off of the
I
stuff.
found that when I was a
But
kid, um,
I learned
I
from
didn't
watching my
realize it, but
mom
they
and
set
my
us
dad do
down. I was in
drugs,
third grade
and then
and
teach me
and had
math
us watch
and
Roots.
feed
Now
me
the teachers that did it
and
and the
teach me how
principal,
to fix
they
computers
I believe in my heart
and
they had every
sing
good
to me.
intention by showing us
So
that,
Hmm.
I made that
and they were trying
connection
to
without
educate
even
us on
realizing it.
some of our
That just
history.
because you're in a
But
bad position,
it
just
begins
because you're
to
at the
paint our
bottom,
history with a broad stroke,
doesn't mean you're
and
not trying,
and it
right?
insinuates that
So
that's where our
I
history
guess
starts
I'm
at
trying to tie that into
at
Right.
the
slavery.
taking action
You know,
part,
Hmm.
and then most
self-evaluating also,
yeah,
is that
most
just
people don't
because you
even look
see
back
these people out there
back
rioting and
beyond
looting
that, especially
doesn't
black
mean they're
people.
bad people.
There's become this divide
It's
between black
it's a bit of
Americans
opportunism.
and blacks
Um,
all over the
it's a
world.
bit of
You know, if you
Hmm.
call
um,
a
anger, a lot
Nigerian
of anger.
black,
Um,
he might
but they're
say,
not bad people.
"I'm not black, I'm Nigerian."
You probably got
So
preachers
it's
and
like we don't
everything out
even
there
feel
stealing
like we're
bottles of
related.
Hennessy.
And now, I obviously have like a
But
mix.
isn't that a good thing
Right, right,
that
right,
Well,
they're not trying to divide? I mean, it's almost like going to Europe
right,
and me meeting somebody of
right.
the same skin tone as me, and I'm saying, "Oh, I'm Italian," and they say, "Oh, well, I'm Scottish." It's not like I'm white, you're white.
right.
Right.
Yeah, I
No,
could see
Yes.
that. Well, the problem with, I think the problem is not a Nigerian being proud of being Nigerian. I think the problem
Right.
is more
Definitely.
so black people in America, black Americans,
Yes.
just to
Yes.
use the term
Yeah. Definitely.
that's most
Definitely.
accepted, are don't have a home. So we identify with slavery, and that being the start of our history, and we've
That's
been
it.
tossed
Yeah. That's
aside
it. I know it all.
by
I got it.
other
All right.
Africans or
I
other
got it.
people with African
Right.
descent.
Yes. I know all about
So
American
even
history.
they look down upon black Americans. So we can't say
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah,
from Nigeria
I
can
learned
look at
about
their
Martin Luther
history.
King. I know
I mean,
everything
theoretically,
about black people.
back a
You
thousand
know?
years or more.
It was
You know,
Dr. King and it was Malcolm X.
dozens of
That's it.
generations, where I can only look back 3 or 4, and I'm pretty sure I could do some better research. But
hmm
that's the typical story. You know, your grandmother, maybe your great grandmother, and that's about it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it
That's
could
it.
be
Boom.
definitely a
Yeah.
positive thing, and I wouldn't knock any certain African country for being proud of being African, but I just think we need to be more, as
Right.
Black Americans, be more in
Right.
tune with our history
Watch that, and that's it.
before
Oh my goodness,
slavery, and we can't
man! You
just
know,
start there.
Mhm.
And that's
I
that's
found
important.
that
That's
when I
important
was a
research
kid.
for
Um,
so-called Black
I didn't
Americans to do
realize it, but they set
is
us down. I was in third
know
grade,
our history, because a lot of
and
these
and
kids
had us watch Roots. Now
walking
the
around with their
teachers that did
pants
it
hanging
and the
down
principal,
just don't know
they
their history. They
I
don't know
believe
who
in
they
my
are,
heart they had every good
and they
intention
don't have
in
belts.
showing us that, and they were trying to educate us on some of our history. But it begins to paint our history with a broad stroke,
So,
and
can you touch
it
on
insinuates that that's where our history
the
starts
issue of white savior
at
versus
slavery,
white ally,
and
and
then
how
most
we, as
yeah, most people don't even look
people who
back yet
identify as
back
white,
beyond
or
that, especially black people.
everybody
There's
actually,
become this
can
divide
navigate through that and
between
not
black
be offensive,
Americans
and
and
be an
blacks
ally
all over the
without
world.
trying
You know,
to
if you call
um,
a Nigerian black,
or just be an ally in
he
general.
might
How can we
say,
be an
"I'm
ally
not
and not
black, I'm
have the
Nigerian."
title of white savior?
So it's like we don't even feel like
That
we're
that
related.
is
Now, I obviously
that's a
have
great
like
question.
a
And
mixed.
okay, first thing that
Well,
comes to mind is that black people, when they see a white person, there's always the presumption of guilt. They see a white person, and that white person
right. I
is
can see that.
automatically racist
Well, the problem with
just because they're
I
white.
think the problem is not a Nigerian
And
being proud of being Nigerian.
even if they're
I
trying to
think the
help,
problem is more so
even if
black
they are
people
saying
in
all the right
America, black
things,
Americans, just to
there's
use
going to
the
be
term
this air of,
that's most
yeah, you're saying all the
accepted,
right things, but you don't know my
are
struggle. You
don't
don't know
have
what's
a
going
home.
on.
So
So
we
it's like,
identify with slavery
I just feel
and that being
like
the start of our history,
it's like
and we've been
a
tossed aside
a child,
by other
not to
Africans or other people
diminish the greatness of any people
African
down to a
descent.
child, but
So
when you
even they look
first
down
meet a
upon
child,
black
you
Americans.
don't
So
go and
we
start
can't say
tickling them and picking them up the
somebody from
first
Nigeria
time
can
you
look
meet
at their
them,
history.
right?
I mean,
You say,
theoretically,
"Hey, how's it going?"
that 1,000 years
And you
or more,
develop that trust,
dozens of
And the
generations.
same thing,
Where
like I was saying, I
I
go out
can
on an
only look
outreach
back
bus 5 days a
3 or 4.
week,
And I'm pretty
interact
sure
with
I
the
could
people in
do
the
some
poor
better
community,
research, but
homeless populations, and things like that.
that's the typical story.
And I've been
You know,
there.
your
I've only been
grandmother,
there 2 months,
maybe your great grandmother,
but now
and
I'm
that's
just
about
now
it.
starting to get the trust of those people.
So yeah,
I
it could
just
be
can't
definitely a
just
positive
jump straight
thing,
in and say,
and I
"All
wouldn't
right, y'all
knock
trust
any
me. Tell me everything. Tell me
certain
all your deepest,
African
darkest
country
secrets.
for being proud of
I'm
being
your
African,
ally,
Right.
but
man. Come on. I know you never
I
seen
just
me
think we
before,
need
but
to be more
I'm
as
here to
Black
help. You see, I got
Americans,
some
be more
food
in
here.
tune
Now,
with our
trust me.
history
Even though
before
I'm
slavery. And we
I'm
can't
black.
just start there.
They
And
recognize, even
that's
though I'm
important.
a
That's
little fair
important
skinned,
research
they,
for
when they see me, they're
so-called
like,
Black
hey,
Americans
brother,
to do is
So I've done
know our
nothing
history, because a lot of these
I've
kids
done nothing
walking
to
around with their pants
make
hanging
them
down
mistrust me.
just don't know their history.
But
They don't know who
there's
they are,
also when somebody
and they don't have belts.
in an official position, whether it's an outreach bus or a cop or whatever, they're going to be looked at with scrutiny, black or white, red or green, right? You're coming, they're going to look at you with a side eye. But especially white people. So we have one of the nurses, well, all three of the nurses that I've gone out with are all white. So we're coming during COVID-19, coming to their community, administering medicine, and handing out food, right? A lot of people are very skeptical of that. They're
Mhm.
like, okay, and then you got this white nurse on here.
Is this Tuskegee all over
That
again?
Right,
that is
right. What are y'all trying to give us? It's
that's
like,
a
y'all
great
doing,
question.
are y'all doing COVID tests? I'm like, no,
And
we're not doing any COVID
okay,
tests.
first thing that comes
Okay,
to mind is
y'all want,
that
some people who are newer to the program,
black people
they'll say, Do I need an ID?
When they see a white
Because
person,
they don't want to go through it. They don't want to give you their information.
there's always the presumption.
Okay.
Mhm.
I could just get
They
some.
see a
It's
white
free.
person, and that
Okay, I
person,
don't need an ID.
that white person
All right, I'll take it.
is
because they're
automatically racist
Skeptical,
just because
and
they're white.
like you said, we're going through
And,
PTSD, so
even if they're
we're
trying to
dealing
help,
with that mistrust,
even if they are
and
saying
we're
all the
dealing
right
with
things,
fear.
there's going to be
even though
this air of
I've never
you're
heard a
saying all
black
the
man
right
say he
things,
was
but you
afraid.
don't know my struggle. You don't know what's going on.
Nobody that.
So
I mean,
it's
I
like,
really cannot remember in
I
my
just feel
entire
like
life hearing
it's
a black
like
man say, "I'm scared,"
a child,
because there's this pride thing.
not to
Right, it might just be a
diminish the
machismo. It might be
greatness
a
of any
crawl across the
people down
board
to a child,
that
but
men in general
when you first meet a child,
But there's that
you
fear.
don't
We
go
have
and
fear
start
too. We're afraid of the
tickling them and
police.
picking them up the first
People
time you meet
instead
them.
of saying I'm
Right.
afraid,
You say,
they'll say,
"Hey, how's
"Yeah,
it
I was a
going?"
little nervous." You know
And
what I'm saying?
develop
But I
that
wasn't
trust.
scared,
Right.
right? Everything's
And the
all
same
good,
thing,
baby.
like I
But
was
he had a
saying, I go
gun
out
to
on
your
an
head.
outreach bus,
I still wasn't scared. I mean, I was
5
sweating
days
and
a
shaking, but
interact
I
with
wasn't
people
scared, right?
on
Right.
situations
So
like
yeah,
that.
but we
And
we
I've
have
been
that
there. I've only been
that
there 2
angst,
months.
that
But now
and then
I'm
there's
just
a
now
there's a
starting
resentment
to get the trust of
towards
those people.
white people.
I just
So,
can't just jump
we-
straight in and say,
a lot of
all
black
right, y'all
people,
trust me.
and I
Tell
went
me
through it in
everything.
my
Tell
youth.
me all your deepest,
I assumed,
darkest secrets.
and I was told
I'm your ally,
that
man.
white
Come
people
on,
don't love
I
me.
know you never seen me before.
They don't
but,
care about me.
I'm here to
So
help.
I had
See,
to
I
go
got
out
some
there and
food
meet
here.
some white people.
Now, trust me. Even
So
though
I could say, wait a minute,
I'm
man.
black.
This guy's not
They
so
recognize,
bad.
even though I'm a little
Right?
fair skinned,
And a
when they
lot of,
see me, they're
especially
like,
a lot of the
hey,
youth,
brother,
haven't done that.
So
they might
I've
have had
done nothing
one a teacher
to-
here or there that they
I've
liked
done
that was white,
nothing to
but they probably
make them mistrust
never
me.
met a police officer that
But
they liked
there's
that was white.
also when somebody,
So you still
in
have that
official position,
skepticism, and
whether it's an outreach
and,
bus or a cop or
the
whatever,
it's
they're
a
gonna be
foreign.
looked at with
White
scrutiny,
people
black
are
or white,
foreign
red
to
or
us,
green.
and I
right?
think
You're
that's
coming, they're
for
gonna
both
look at you
sides.
with a side eye.
You've seen the movies.
But
Like
especially
white people have seen
So
the
we
movies.
have,
they've seen the
one of
news
the
clips.
nurses,
They've read the stories.
all three
They've
of the
heard the
nurses
stories.
that I've gone
But
out
have
with
you ever
are all white.
slept in a black person's house?
So we're
You know,
coming.
have you
during
ever been to the
COVID-19,
cookout? Have you
coming to their community,
been around black
administering
people
medicine
outside of
and
work
handing
in
out food,
any form
right?
or fashion?
A lot of
and I
people are
believe
very
the answer to
skeptical
that
of
would
that.
be some
They're like,
yes, but many of them no.
Okay,
You know,
you
yeah,
got
I
this
have a
white
black
nurse
friend, I have a black
right here.
coworker. No, that's not enough.
Right,
You know,
right. What are y'all trying to
watching
give us? It's like y'all doing
what's that
are
Tyler
y'all doing
Perry
COVID
movies
tests? Like, no, we're not.
does not
doing
give
that.
you a clear
Okay.
representation of what
Y'all want-
black
you know,
people
some
are,
people who are newer
and
to the
who we
program,
are.
They'll
Yeah,
say,
so
do I need an ID?
And
No,
even for
Because they don't
myself,
want to go through it. They
you
don't
know,
want to
my
give you
dad
their information.
is your grandfather.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
yes,
Just get
But
some.
the way
It's
that
free.
we both grew
Okay,
up
I don't need
is
an ID.
worlds
All right, I'll
apart.
take
absolutely.
Because
they're
by the time
skeptical.
I came along, and by the time
you
my
said,
dad
we're going
came
through
into
PTSD.
my well,
So
by the
we're
time
dealing
my
with
dad got
that
to be in
mistrust,
my family,
and we're
Yeah.
dealing with
created my family.
fear.
I'm not sure how to
Oh
word it.
no,
Anyway, he
I've
had
never
already
heard a black man
appropriated
say he was
himself
afraid.
into the white culture. I mean, he was hanging out with, white
Nobody that.
Jews and
I
white
mean, I really
Italians and,
cannot
the whole,
remember in my
the white
entire
section.
life
And then he moved into
hearing
the
a black
American
man
Indian
say, "I'm
section. So he had
scared,"
completely abandoned his
because
black
there's this
history
pride thing.
Yeah,
to the
wow.
point
It
where
might just be a
when we were
machismo,
growing
it might
up,
be a crawl across the
he
board
didn't even tell
that
us that
men
he
in
was part
general
black.
are,
Wow.
But there's that fear. We have fear
Wow.
too.
He said,
Amazing.
"Oh,
Afraid of the
my
police.
mom was a
People,
dark-skinned
instead of saying,
Indian,
I'm afraid,
and I
they'll
don't know
say,
who my
yeah, I
dad
was a little
was."
nervous. You
Right.
know
But
what I'm
then when
saying?
we
But I
did
wasn't
research,
scared, right?
we researched it, and it was like,
Everything's all
no,
good,
you were
baby.
black.
When he had a gun to your head,
So,
I still wasn't
we
scared.
grew
I mean,
up
I was
with,
sweating and
we
shaking,
didn't
but
even get to grow up
I
with
wasn't
any of that
scared,
culture.
right?
And, the way we grew up
So
is
yeah, but
he
we're
completely
we have
denied his
that angst
history and
that
his background and his
and
ancestry
then
Wow.
there's
until
a
my brother and I
resentment
started doing research
towards
for it.
white
So,
people. So
we don't even have that
we
commonality.
a
Right.
lot of black people,
And that's
I went through it in my youth.
I believe
assume,
he did
and
that
I was told
for a
that white
good
people
reason.
don't love me.
I think it's
They don't care
I think
about
it's
me.
shameful that he did
So I
it,
had to go out there
but
and
he
meet
got
some white people.
rewarded. He
So
got rewarded
I
for
could
that.
say, wait a
Well,
minute,
he saw an
man,
opportunity
this
and
guy's
saw
not so
that if he
bad,
claimed that he was
right?
American Indian,
And
he might
a
get
lot of,
more
especially a lot of the
disability
youth,
because he kept getting
haven't
shut
done that.
down
They
as a
might have
black
had
man, being in the
a
army,
teacher here or
having
there that
shrapnel
they
in his
liked that
back,
was white,
having war injuries from
but they
Korea.
probably
They kept shutting
never
him
met
down
a
and he kept
police officer
getting
that they
put
liked that
on
was
the
white.
bottom of the list. So he
Um,
said, well,
so
you know
you
what?
still
I'm
have
light
that
enough that I can
skepticism,
probably pass for an American Indian.
and
Let me change my heritage
it's
and see
it's
Wow.
if
a
I can move on up.
foreign. White people are foreign
Yeah,
to us,
with having that
and I think
shrapnel in
that's
his back
for
too,
both
and
sides.
that
You've seen
probably,
the movies.
I mean, I'm
Like
almost
white
certain
people have
that
seen the
that
movies. They've seen the news
led to his
clips.
opioid
They've
addiction and
read the
his drug
stories. They've
addiction.
heard the
You know,
stories.
Absolutely.
you
But have
start
you
off
ever
just taking it for
Absolutely, it did.
pain,
slept in a black person's
Hmm.
house?
and you end up
You
Yeah,
just
know,
taking it
have you
just to
ever been
feel
to the
normal.
cookout? Have you,
exactly.
Yeah,
been
Yeah, I mean, my
around
biggest
black
memories
people
of him
outside
were,
of work
him
in any
laying on the
form or
couch
fashion? And I
all the
believe
time.
the answer to that would be
yeah,
some yes,
yeah,
So,
but many of them no.
yeah.
but
Yeah, I have a black friend, I have a black
yeah,
coworker.
there's such a
No,
huge
that's not
disparity
enough. You
between,
know,
you know,
watching
the cultures, and we just
what's
have to
that
figure out
Tyler Perry
how to
movies
close
does
that
not give you
divide.
a
Yes, I
clear
agree. And
representation of
familiarizing
what black
yourself
people are
with the both
and who we are.
sides would
Yeah,
help doing
so
that. And like I
um,
said,
you know,
there's really not a lot I mean,
yes,
like I said, we could talk for
yes,
10 hours about it. And
Hmm.
well, there's another thing.
absolutely.
You should, like I said, do research and
Hmm.
look into those black scholars, because I might know a little bit, and I
Yeah,
know mostly my experience. I've done some research, but there are so many phenomenal black historians, and black organizations, and I'm not talking about the whitewashed NAACP, even though they do some good, but like a lot of new organizations that are springing up.
yeah,
I only
wow,
feel comfortable talking about my sister's organization, whereas she might be a little
wow,
brash sometimes,
wow,
and hard to
amazing.
digest, especially for white people.
Hmm.
She has the right mindset and the right
Right.
intentions for black people all across the world,
Hmm.
not just black Americans. She wants
Right.
equality. She wants us to, and that being said, her fiance Christopher Marshall is a real scholar.
Wow.
He's
Hmm.
he's got so many books that sometimes he'll read a book in one day.
Right.
Sometimes it'll
And
take him
that's
4 years to read a
and
book,
I
because he
believe
just needs to
he did that
digest that first
for
half.
a
But
good
and
reason.
that's the kind of
I think
scholar
it's
he is.
I think it's
So you
shameful that he
definitely want to
did it,
be in tune
but
with those
he
type of
got
scholars.
rewarded.
Find your
He got
own.
rewarded for that.
Take my
Um,
suggestion, but maybe you need something a little more palatable. So just find that it for you, and familiarize yourself with the more educated people, who aren't just speaking out of anger; they're speaking out of facts. And
Hmm.
emotions are important, but you want to have balance. So your emotions should be backed with
wow.
facts, and your facts should be
Yeah,
rooted in the right
with
types of
having that
emotions.
shrapnel in his back too, and
I have a
that
quote
probably
from Malcolm
made
X
him
here.
almost certain that
Hmm.
that led to
When you
his
live in a poor
opioid addiction,
neighborhood,
his drug addiction.
you are
Yeah.
living in an
You
area
start off
where you
just
have
taking it
poor
for pain,
schools. When you have poor
and you end
schools,
up
you have
just
poor
taking it just to
teachers.
feel normal.
When you have poor teachers, you get a
Yeah,
poor education. When you get a poor education, you can only work in a poor paying job. And that poor paying
yeah,
job
yeah,
enables you to live again in a
yeah.
poor neighborhood. So it's a very vicious cycle. you know, and,
Absolutely.
and I was just talking to one of my coworkers, and we said a good start, and I kind of hinted on it
Yes,
earlier.
I agree.
A good
And
start would
familiarizing
be
yourself
free health care
with both
for all,
sides would help doing
and
that.
fair
And
schools
like I
for all.
said, there's really
Because right now,
not a lot we
Malcolm X
can. I
said,
mean, like I said, we could talk for 10 hours about
if
it.
you live 10 minutes
Um,
away from
and
here,
Well, there's another
Your
thing.
school has 10 times the amount of funding
You should,
that my school here in
like I
Harvey,
said,
Illinois. So if you
do
drive
research
to Orland Park or
and-
Tinley Park, which is just
and
10
look into
minutes
those
west of here,
Black scholars, because
Right.
you
I might
get a
know little
completely
bit,
different
and
education.
I know
That should be
mostly
illegal.
my experience.
It should
I've
be
done some
illegal
research,
for them
but
to
there
have
are
a middle
so
school
many
lacrosse
phenomenal
team, and
Black
and my
historians,
kids can't even get books.
and Black organizations.
Right.
And I'm not
It should
talking
be
about the
illegal. It
whitewash
should be a crime.
NAACP.
So
they do some
you know,
good.
and a lot of that
but
comes from private
like,
donations and
a
things
lot of
like that.
New organizations that are springing
And
up. I only feel comfortable.
I just
talking
believe
about,
and the
my
tax
sister's
dollars
organization,
from that area,
whereas she might
it's a
be
higher
little brash
income area.
sometimes,
They receive more tax dollars,
and hard
therefore
to
their
digest,
schools are better.
especially
That's
for
a
white
crime,
people.
you know. So healthcare and schools,
She
if we could
has
do
the
that,
right
then we could
mindset
talk
and the right
about
intention
reparations.
for Black people all across the world.
But they're not giving us
So does the schools
reparations.
not do desegregation
She
anymore, where
wants
they bus into
equality.
different areas?
She wants. us
There's
to,
a little bit of that. It's mostly,
and that being said,
it's mostly,
her fiance Christopher
well,
Marshall.
like let's say,
is a
like the
real
city of
scholar.
Chicago.
You know,
The city of Chicago,
he's got so
Chicago
many books
public
that
school system does some of that.
Sometimes
So you'll see
he'll
some
read
of
a
the
book in
kids
one
on the
day.
south side
Sometimes it'll
going
take
to
him
schools
4 years to
downtown
read a
and things
book
like that.
because he just
But
needs
as
to
soon as you hit the
digest that
suburbs,
first half.
there's none of that.
But, that's
If
the
you live
kind
in
of scholar
that
he is.
area, you
So,
go to that public school.
definitely want to be in
That's it.
tune with
Unless
those
you have a
type of
different
scholars.
address.
Find your
So
own.
if you live in Harvey, you go to a
Take
Harvey
my
school.
suggestion, but
If you live in
maybe you
Tinley
need something
Park,
a little
10
more
minutes down the
palatable.
road, or
so
Orland Park or
just
Schaumburg,
find
you go
that
to a Schaumburg
it
school.
for you.
So
And
it's
yourself
it's definitely
with the more
some of that going on
educated
in
people.
Chicago, the city itself, and probably a lot
who
of
aren't
different
just
cities
speaking out of anger,
around the
but
country.
speaking out of
But once you're in the
facts.
suburbs of Chicago, you
Emotions
can't
are
go to
important,
those
but
schools. There's
you
no
wanna
way,
have balance,
no
so
way. And
your
if you
emotions
do,
should be back with facts.
I just enrolled my
Facts
son
should
in
be
a school in Tinley Park,
rooted in the right types
and
of
the
emotions.
process was relatively painless. But we
I
were
have a
met
quote
with some
from Malcolm
skepticism
X here.
when there's this new kid joining the Thompson
when you live in a
household in
poor
Tinley
neighborhood,
Park. You
You
know,
are
we got some
living
side
in an
eyes.
area where you have
You
poor
guys all
schools.
live in the same house, huh?
When you have poor
Oh,
schools,
it's a
you have poor
two-family
teachers.
household. Yeah,
When you
why
have poor
not?
teachers, you get a poor
did it.
education.
He owns a house
You
in
get a
Tinley
poor
Park.
education.
Why can't I
You
live
can
with
only
my
work
brother
in a
and my
poor-paying
kids go
job.
to your rich school?
And that poor paying job
Exactly.
enables you to live
And I know
in a
for
poor neighborhood.
Atlanta city schools
So it's a
here,
very
there was a few years
vicious
ago, they got in
cycle.
trouble for doctoring up
And I
test
was just
scores.
talking to one of my coworkers,
Because
and
there's
we
incentive.
said
If you do better
a
on
good
test
start,
scores, your school will get more funding.
and I kind of hinted on it
So,
earlier.
these were in
A
the
good
poorer
start
areas,
would be
and they doctored the test
free
scores. They got
healthcare
caught.
for
But,
all
I mean, this is the kind
and
of stuff
fair
that
schools for all.
people have to resort to
Because
in
right
order
now,
to be able to
Malcolm X
get books and
said,
funding for their schools, or otherwise they're
if
going
you
to
live
just
10
fall
minutes
through the
away
cracks.
from here,
How do you stop that cycle?
And
your
so it
school
should
has
be
10 times
because
the
it
amount
should
of
be
funding
straight across the
that
board
my
that
school here in
all
Harvey, Illinois.
schools
So if
are
you drive
taught
to
the
Orland
same,
Park
and they
or Tinley
think that
Park,
they
which
are,
is just
but
10
they
minutes
really
west
aren't.
of here,
And I think that's why a lot of
you
people
get a
are resorting
completely
to
different education.
homeschooling, and they're
That should
resorting
be
to online
illegal.
school, because at least
It should
in
be
online school
illegal
you can
for
live in the
them
suburbs or you
to
can live
have
in the
a
projects,
middle
and you'll
school
still get the
lacrosse
same
team,
education.
and
Yes.
my kids can't
So,
even get
but yeah, I
books.
mean, people don't
You
realize the
know,
things that
it should
that
be
have to be
illegal. It should be a
resorted to in
crime.
order to try and
So,
level the playing field.
Right, and that's
a lot of
just
that
so
comes
crazy
from private
to me.
donations and things like that.
Okay, if you guys want better funding,
And
you better be smarter.
I just believe like
If
oh,
you're
yeah,
not
the
smarter,
tax
you don't
dollars
get better funding.
from that
So you
area.
don't get new books,
It's
you
a
don't get
higher
new
income
desks.
area. They receive
So
more
get
tax
smarter
dollars,
before we give you
therefore
the
their
funding.
schools
But
are better.
some of that funding
That's
is
a
necessary
crime.
to get
You know,
smarter.
so
So catch
healthcare in
22 is
schools, if we could do that, then we could
it's a
talk.
joke.
And it's not even a
about
matter of
reparations.
them being smarter, it's just a matter of them being able to pass the test.
But they're
right,
not giving us
testing
I know my
ability.
kids-
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they started teaching to the test
there's a little
almost
bit of that. It's
as
mostly
soon as school started.
it's
And the kids were
mostly,
so overstressed. It was just constantly,
let's say,
like the
like the
kids
city
were
of
worried
Chicago.
about, I got to pass this
city of
test. I got to pass
Chicago,
this test. You know,
Right.
it's
Chicago
all about the
public school
test.
system does
And
something.
it was ridiculous.
So
I'm
you'll see
glad you
some
pointed
of the
that out.
kids on the south side
Being smart has
going
nothing to do
schools
with test
downtown
taking
and things
abilities.
like that. But when, as soon as you hit the
Exactly.
suburbs,
You know,
there's
you
none
could
of that.
Be the
If
smartest
you live
kid in the world.
that area,
flunk a
you
test
go to
because
that
you don't-
public school.
You didn't
That's
practice
it.
that
Unless
style.
you have a different address.
Question
Right.
answer.
If you live in Harvey, you go to a
Yeah,
Harvey
wow.
school.
Yeah.
If you live in
And it's just
Tinley
different
Park, 10 minutes
retaining,
down the
and
road,
and
or
it's different ways of
Orland Park
learning.
or
You might be a
Schaumburg, you
visual
go to a
learner, I might be
Schaumburg
an
school.
auditory learner.
So
And
it's
classes are so
it's
packed full,
definitely
you can't teach
some of
to
that
a
going
way
on
that a
in
child
Chicago, the
learns,
city itself, and
and then
probably a
they
lot of
become
different
a
cities
behavioral issue.
around the country. But once you're in the
Yes.
suburbs of
And then add
Chicago,
on top of
you
that,
can't go to those
you're in a
schools. There's
poor
no way, no
area.
way. And
You're
if you
not
do,
eating the
I
foods
just
that you
enrolled
should be
my
eating.
son
So
in
you're
a
eating a
school
lot
in
of
Tinley
processed
Park,
stuff, a lot of sugar
and the
stuff.
process was
Your brain is
relatively
not
painless,
functioning to
but
its
we were
optimal
met with
level.
some
And now, again,
skepticism
you're a
when there's
behavioral
this new
issue.
kid joining
Wow.
the Thompson
I
household in
could go
Tinley
on
Park.
for
Yes.
You know,
days
and
with,
Yes,
that's
we
besides.
definitely
with
can.
behavioral
Oh, you
issue
guys
stuff.
all live in the
Definitely
Yeah.
same
can.
house, huh?
Yep. Here,
Oh,
sit in this
so
But
chair
yeah,
for
these
two-family
8 hours.
household.
If you can't sit in
Yeah,
this
why
chair for
not?
exactly.
seven
You
hours,
get it. He
you
owns
need
a house in Tinley
medication, bro.
Park. Why can't I live with my
Whatever.
brother and my
Yeah.
kids go to your
Get with
rich
the
Hmm.
school?
program, kid. I've heard it all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then we're feeding them sugar laden cereal. And, a lot of times that's the only food that they get is when they're in school.
Another quote from Malcolm X. I just printed out a few of them.
Hmm.
Wow.
He says, "You get your freedom by letting your enemy know that you'll do anything to get it. Then you'll get it. It's the only way you'll get it." So,
Right.
like I said, the senseless looting. Yeah, I get it.
How do you stop that cycle?
The anger, I get it. We could be a lot more organized. But when you're pissed and you're fed up, you're fed up. And then if you see
Right.
somebody going, if you're just driving past, you didn't have any intentions of stealing anything that day, and you see people getting thousands of dollars worth of free stuff, you just might be
Yes.
inclined to join in and,
Yeah.
and go grab some yourself, even if you're not a protester, even if you're not
And
somebody who
that's
speaks
just
out.
so crazy to me.
You're like, okay, what, free
okay, if
stuff?
you guys
Yeah,
want better
let me
funding,
get some of that
you better
right
be
now.
smarter.
Right.
And
Hmm.
if you're not smarter, you don't get better
Yeah, so we
funding.
should
So
be
you don't get
mad.
new
We should be
books, you don't
pissed.
get
We
new
should be
desks.
speaking out. We should be
So get smarter
burning
before
the
we
right
give you
things.
funding. But
You
some
know,
of that
but
funding is
Right.
necessary to get smarter.
some of the
It's a catch-22.
behaviors and the direction and the lack
a
of
joke.
organization is questionable. But hell yeah, we should
Hmm.
be mad. Everybody should be mad.
Right, testing ability. Right,
Well, and I saw
right.
on Facebook there were quite
Yeah.
a few of organized protests, and they had
Yes.
set out with the intention to, peacefully protest and protest quietly and, sit in or kneel in or whatever. But there was
Right.
also, some people that were sent in to instigate.
I'm glad you
Oh
pointed that
wow,
out.
I've seen
So,
some of that
Being
too.
smart has nothing to do with
Oh
testing
mhm,
my,
abilities.
oh my, oh
Um,
my.
you could
Wow.
right.
be the
And I mean,
smartest kid
there's
in the
videos
world and
going around. I
flunk a
can't
test
remember
because
what studio it was in, but
you
there
didn't
were
practice
two
that
white girls
style
who
of
were defacing a
I just
Starbucks.
watched
question
that.
answering.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
putting Black Lives
Mm.
Matter,
And
Black Lives Matter on it.
yeah, so I mean, it's not just people of color who are doing this.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
There's other people who are trying to make it worse.
right. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So,
anything else you want to offer? I mean, like I said, I know we could go on forever and ever, but I
right.
definitely wanted your point of view, and I felt it was important to have you on.
Well, I just want to, thank you for bringing me on, and
Wow.
I'm happy to have you in my life now.
Yes.
And
Yes, we can
Yeah, I
definitely can.
we should talk more. It was a pleasure
Definitely
meeting you
can.
for the
Yeah,
first
here,
time
sit in this chair for 8 hours.
down in
If you can't sit in this
Atlanta.
chair
yeah, that
for
was just a
seven,
year
in
ago.
7 hours,
Georgia, down in
you need
Georgia.
medication.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah, it's been
Or
so
whatever.
long. It's been too
Yeah.
long.
Get with the
Hmm.
program, kid.
So you need to
I've
come up
heard
and
it all.
visit as soon as possible. Um,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
as soon
yeah,
as COVID's over.
right. As soon as the outside opens back up, huh? But
2020 is shaking shit
Um,
up.
yeah,
Another quote from
really,
Malcolm X. I just
really.
printed out a few of
But
them.
in a way, I think
He
it's a good
says,
thing
"You
because
get
I
your
think it's,
freedom by letting your enemy know
honestly,
that you'll do anything to get
from
it.
my point of view, and I could
Then
be
you'll get
wrong,
it.
and you can call me
It's
out
the
on my
only
shit if
way
I'm
you'll
wrong,
get
but,
it."
I think with the
So,
coronavirus and
like I said, the
the
senseless looting.
quarantine,
Yeah,
Yes.
I get it.
think that it kind of
The
softened
anger, I
us a
get
little
it.
bit and made us a little bit
We
more
could be a
human.
lot more
And then when this
organized.
happened,
But when you're pissed and
maybe
you're
that
fed
gave
up,
us
you're
the
fed up.
opportunity to open our eyes
And
a little
then
bit
if you
more
see
and to
somebody
see, because the
going, if you're
quarantine
just
and COVID
driving
has affected
past,
everybody worldwide.
You didn't have
Yes.
any
So we were
intention
kind
of
of brought
stealing
together.
anything that day.
It wasn't just like,
And you
oh,
see
this is
people
happening
getting
in the United
thousands of
States, or
dollars
oh, this
worth
is
of free
happening in
stuff.
China, so I can just
You
avert
just
my
might be
eyes to it.
inclined to join
So I
in
think it kind of drew us all together. And then
and
when George
and
Floyd
go
was
grab
murdered,
some yourself, even if you're not a
we were
protester,
already
even if you're
kind of
not
joined
somebody who
together.
speaks out.
So I think
You're
this
like,
might have
okay, what free
unified
stuff? Yeah,
the
let me get
forces
some
a
of
little
that
bit more,
right now.
which is why I think we're seeing so many states
Yeah, so we should be
protesting as
mad. We
opposed
should be
to
pissed. We should
just
be speaking
Baltimore
out. We
or
should
just
be
Flint or
Right.
just,
burning the right things.
Minneapolis.
Right.
But
There last I heard there
some of
were
the
at least
behavior
33 states that were
and the
protesting.
direction and the
So,
lack of organization is
I
questionable.
Right.
think it's
But hell yeah, we
unified.
should be mad.
Yeah, and
Everybody
then
should be mad.
also, I agree. I agree with you. And also, social media is now more of a profound tool than ever.
Hmm.
And I believe people were more tuned in to their devices than ever. So that was another
Yeah.
unifying thing. We got unified by COVID, and now we're just sitting at
Oh,
home on
wow,
our
I've seen
phones
some
all
of
day,
that
more
too.
than ever. We got
Oh
more
my,
time on our
Right.
hands.
my, oh my, oh my.
So even the people
Wow.
who wanted to protest the last time we quote unquote springed into
I just
action
watched that.
in a reactionary way, which
Yeah.
that kind of
Put
bothers me.
Black
How
Lives
reactionary we
Matter
are
on it.
instead of being pissed off all year round. We should wish we should be, and I fear that 2 weeks from now
Yeah.
nobody's going to
Yeah.
care again. That bothers me. But last
Right.
time there was a lot of people
Yeah.
who said, "Man, I wish I could be out
Wow.
there," because but I got to
So
work. Well, guess what? You're on unemployment. Those same
Now we
people are
don't.
on unemployment now, so they're like, "Oh, what word?" They look on
right.
their phone. Oh, they right
Hmm.
down the street. I'm going. So
Yeah.
they've been more connected, have more
Well, I
time on
just
their
want to,
hands.
thank you for
Like you
bringing
said,
me
2020
on.
is just like
I'm happy to have you
the
in my
perfect
life now.
storm for this
And
thing. And
Hmm.
we should
I
talk
hope
more.
I,
It's
Yeah.
a
I hope for
pleasure
all the
meeting
good and
for
none
the
of the
first
bad.
time
But
down
some of the good might look bad, and some of the bad
Atlanta
might look good.
in Georgia.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's
It's been
definitely
so
opened
long.
our
It's been
eyes
too
to
long.
stop, to
So you
look
need to come
beyond
up and visit
this
as soon as
Yes.
right
possible.
here
Yes. Yes.
and
But
how
yeah,
our actions affect
right,
people.
right. As soon as the
Yeah.
outside
So,
opens back up, huh?
but like I said,
But
I'm going to list in the show notes, the different
yeah, really,
resources that you
really.
provided. I have a whole other list of resources,
Awesome.
um, and I want to do another episode where we name off everybody that has been murdered because we can't forget about them.
Let's do it. That's a great
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
great episode. It's gonna be like 17 hours long.
Right. How far back do we go?
Right.
Great. But
Right.
with social media, I think too, it makes everything so quick. It
Yes.
happens, and then it fizzles out, and we forget. We
Right.
forgot about Ahmaud, we forgot about Eric
Right.
Garner, we forgot about Michael Brown, and you
Right.
know,
Right.
uh, uh, Botham Jean,
Yes.
and Breonna Taylor, and
Oh my goodness.
Mm.
yeah, so they quickly fizzle out, and
Right.
I think we need to keep them on the forefront of our mind until
Indeed.
we can rectify.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you came on with me.
Oh,
Spent
thank you
time
for
with
having.
me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and then
Thank you.
also, I
Oh
agree.
goodness,
I agree
this was
with you.
good. Thank
And
you.
also, social media
Yes.
Stop
is
recording.
now more of a profound
Okay.
tool
So
than ever.
I stopped recording.
All right. Cool.
People were more tuned in
I hope I asked
to
decent
their
questions. Sometimes I
devices
feel
than
like
ever.
so white when
So
I'm
that was
asking
another
stuff and
unifying
very
thing. We got
uneducated
unified by
myself, but
COVID, and now we're just sitting at home on our phones
I hope
all
I didn't
day
ask
more than
anything
ever.
offensive.
We got more time on our hands.
No.
So
It was good.
even the
It was.
people
Everything was good.
who wanted to protest
Okay.
the
Yeah,
last
everything
time,
was
Yeah,
smooth.
China. It's so funny
quote
with China.
unquote,
Like I only
springs
see
into
her on
action
Facebook and
in a
when she's
reactionary
going
way,
off,
which
and I'm like,
that kind of bothers
she's
me.
so
How
scary. And then when
reactionary
I
we
actually
are
met her in person,
instead
she
of
was like
being
such a little
pissed off all year
marshmallow.
round,
Oh
which
yeah.
So
we
Yeah.
should be. And I fear that 2 weeks from
Yeah.
now nobody's
Yeah.
going to
She's
care
sweet.
again,
yeah.
and that bothers me. But
And then
last
Bruce,
time there
he's
was a lot
like
of people who said, "Man, I wish I could be out
capitalist
there
Bruce.
Yeah.
because
That
but I
dude.
got to work." Well, guess what?
He's
You're
Yeah.
unemployment. Those same people are unemployment
he
now. So they're
definitely
like,
acts like nothing
oh,
phases
what?
him, but
Word? They
everything
look on their phone.
that
Oh, they
phases him
right down
though.
the street.
He's
I'm gone.
Yeah, I think he
You
keeps
know,
it all
so they,
inside.
they,
he
they,
does,
they've
he
been
does,
more
and
connected,
I
have more
tell him,
time
try
at
to tell
home.
him
So,
not to, but
like you said, 2020 is just like the
Yeah.
he's been put in a
perfect
position where
storm
he
of
feels like he has to
this.
have all the answers, even if he's
Oh,
wrong.
I hope for all the good and none of the bad. Some of the good
Yeah.
might look bad, and some of the bad might
Yeah,
look good.
And he's not the oldest, right? Tony's
You
the
know,
oldest.
yeah. Tony is the oldest.
yeah,
Okay. All right. But he acts like he's the oldest.
Right. Yeah.
But
yes,
Yeah. He's
yeah.
been put in that
yes,
position.
yes,
Definitely.
Mhm.
yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to share this and
Awesome.
I'll send you the link too in case you want it or anything. So,
Okay. Beloved, I love
all
you.
right.
Awesome.
I love you too. Thank
And
you.
we'll talk soon. Thanks for having me. I can't wait to hear
All
it.
right. Thank you.
All right.
All
All
right.
right.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's do it. That's a great episode. That's a great episode. It's gonna be like 17 hours long. Right. Right. Mm. Right. 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 Yes. Oh my goodness. Right. Indeed. Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you. Yes. Okay. All right. Cool. No, 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 no. It was good. It was everything was good. Yeah, everything was smooth. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. She's sweet. Yeah, that dude. He's he definitely acts like nothing phases him, but everything that phases him though. He's he does, and I tell him, try to tell him not to, but he's been put in a position where he feels like he has to have all the answers, even if he's wrong. You know, yeah, Tony is the oldest. Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, he's been put in that position, definitely. Awesome. Okay, beloved, I love you, and we'll talk soon. Thanks for having me. Can't wait to hear it. All right, all right, bye.